Should I pierce my ears with this Titan skate?
You would not be able to do
I don't even
that.
think that's physically possible. I don't think Jesse realizes how people get their ears pierced. Welcome to the BarDown Fantasy Show Extravaganza. We have added, my math's real bad, 8 teams. I think I got that line right. Yeah, There we go. Last year we only had 4 teams. This year we got 12. And
Oh my god.
huge.
Unbelievable math.
Unbelievable. I'm not even kidding. The amount of time I had to take to pause there and think about it. Anyways, we've already done the draft, but you know what? It was an exciting one. It was rapid fire. The main thing that you're going to learn from this is a serious lack of goals in Jesse's team.
This guy's just out to get me.
Shots fired early.
I have a very good
It's
team, and I
very
think you're
good.
all going to agree with me.
It's a very
But
good
Z seems to think I'm lacking in certain departments.
It's you know, and we'll get to it later, but you know, I just thought maybe he'd value Patrick Laine a little bit more. But it's okay. What you're gonna see, spoiler. What you're gonna see here is the first 2 rounds of our draft, and let's go over the rules of how we're playing it this year. So as I said, we got a 12-team draft, and we're going to do the first 2 rounds live here so you can get our reactions from it. The scoring system that we're going with, standard, 6 forwards, 4D, 1 goalie, and 6 bench spots. Goals are going to be worth 2 points. Jesse, look out. Assists, 1 point. Half point for power play points and shorthanded points. Goalie stats, those are 3 points per win, 3 points per shutout, and 1 point for an overtime loss.
So goalies can get 6 points in a game, hey?
Goalies are pretty important.
Man, that's the
Pretty
last
electric.
thing I picked. That was dumb.
That's why the first rule of any fantasy league is to read your scoring settings because they can make an impact.
I had no idea the rules of this league while drafting my team. Let's be perfectly clear.
I'm just going to take players I like.
Yeah,
It's a
that's-
bold strategy.
That's how every
like it.
That's how every fantasy draft works. You kind of go with a bit of a strategy, and you're like, "Ooh, no one's taking that guy. Like, I'm going for him right away," because you want to cheer for the players as well to some degree.
It's true.
Totally.
Percent.
All right, let's get things started. Let's go right into the first round. The person with the first overall pick. At first, we thought it was Luca, which would have been rigged because he started this whole thing, but he didn't.
I had the
He
second
was
pick.
still accused of breaking
I'm
the
still
league.
led to believe that with that second overall pick,
Yeah.
you know, he knew what he was doing.
It's still up in the air.
I would have just rather had the first
No,
pick.
first would have looked too obvious.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
See? Yes.
Yeah.
So the first overall pick went to Pigs, who's not in this room, but Luca, you're in this room, and you had the second overall pick. Who did you go with? Because Connor McDavid clearly was off the board. It's a big pick, number 2.
It is a big pick. And I didn't overthink it like Julia did last year with Matthews over McDavid. I just went with Leon Draisaitl. Guy scores a ton of goals, gets a ton of points. The power play points also help playing on that Edmonton power play. He's just going to rack up 1,000,000 points. So if you have the second pick, I don't see why you'd pick anyone else. As tempting as Matthews was, because I was kind of on your wavelength with that
Stop
too.
giving it to me. I would have taken Draisaitl this year too. Like, I'm out on Austin for a year of fantasy. I can't.
This reminds me of the conversation we had when we did the top 25 players video. Because it was legit. I mean, again, it makes sense. Very similar kind of format. But, like, would you have taken Leon second then? Would you have taken Leon second
For
this
sure
year?
I would
Yeah?
have.
You know I would have
I
taken
know
you
you
on second.
I got to ask still. Yeah.
It's my guy right there.
Well, that's Julia. Who'd you actually take? Because you were all the way down this year in the 8th position. Great team name, by the way. It's TSN. She's the Taylor Swift network.
Shout out to Hannah Carver. That was her team's name at our TSN ball hockey tournament yesterday, and I did just absolutely rip it.
Couldn't take a Sabres player in her honor for that.
No, I couldn't.
Okay. You took Jack Hughes.
Oh, yeah, I was going through a little bit of a moral dilemma with this.
Yep.
Jack Hughes
10th spot. Yeah.
or Matt Tkachuk. I ultimately went with Jack Hughes because I think that Jersey's going to have a monster year, and I think Florida might take a little bit of a step back this year. I thought they were going to take a step back last year, and then they went to the finals. So I don't know if I'm going to be right on that, but I went Jack Hughes.
I will
So,
say
like-
for you though, Jesse, because Julia passed on Kachuk, you had a chance to get
You had a
him.
chance too, and you
Yeah.
said no.
You
Who
just
did
said
I
you
say?
would have
no?
taken him.
I said no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
look, not the sexiest name, but also, like, in my opinion, a very sexy name. Mikko Rantanen.
Love that
That's
pick.
buttery.
That was very buttery.
So
dude.
buttery. It just felt so good getting that one out of my system. You know what? Mikko Rantanen quietly had 55 Genos last year. That's outrageous.
That's like 60% of the goals on your team. It's a massive concern.
Someone had to take up a percentage of the goals. You know what? I love Rantanen. One of the best players on one of the best teams in the league. I just didn't want Luca to have him too. I just had to snag that guy up.
It was pure spite.
There's a couple of those.
Oh yeah, there are a couple. And I'm all in on the Avalanche this year. So far as to say that I think there's probably a pretty good chance that they're going to win the Cup this year.
Wow, I love this.
They're my favorite.
Okay.
They're my favorite.
Okay. Well,
I'm just being realistic here, you know.
Matthew Tkachuk did fall to me, and I did take him, but we've already discussed enough of him. Now that we have a full picture of the first round, who do you guys think went a little high, and who went a little low, or just should have been selected in that first round?
I thought, you know what? Obviously, Carlson is such a stud, and what he did last year was amazing. I don't know if he's necessarily going to do it with Pittsburgh again this year. It just seems like it's a little nuts to play. But he's playing on a better team this year.
Like Pettersson went before Pasta, right?
Yeah.
You guys don't find that a little weird?
He was ranked as the third player in our draft based on our scoring system as well, and he got skipped twice.
Projections really love him this year. Rightly so. 100 points last year. He's just kind of scratching the surface of his prime. Contract year, always big. I think past like Jesse said, especially because goals are worth 2 points. Guy had 60 last year. Unreal.
What we will discuss now, because it's way more pressing, it's round 2. Let's go to round 2. And it's a snake draft, so it's going to go back to me, and we're going to go all the way back around the horn. With my pick, since Mitch Marner was selected next, and then someone went, first goalie was taken, Sorokin, the 14th overall pick. I went Tage Thompson. I got to go someone on the Sabres. I saw him just dangling there. I don't know, 50 is a little nuts. I think that's what he's projected at in this league, but if it happens, at least I'll be cheering for it anyways, so I could see it happening. And yeah, I just went all goals. You'll see that afterwards because we're only doing the first 2 rounds here, but once you see our full team, you'll see I don't think I selected a defenseman until like the 10th round. I started taking goal scorers once it was worth 2 points. Is that a terrible strategy? Probably, but we'll see.
Well, speaking of defensemen, I wanted to snag one of the best ones up pretty quickly before he fell into a certain Avalanche fan's hands here.
Yep.
This guy screwed me over this draft.
I took Cale Makar. Like, this guy probably should have been a first-round pick, if we're being real. One of the best D in the game, 100%. I think the fact that Sorokin went ahead of him is a joke, especially considering that the Islanders might not get that many wins this year. But yeah, I took Makar because he's just an offensive machine. He scores a ton of goals. Like Z's talking about my team lacking goals. We'll get to
I added them up.
the defense. We'll get to the defense on Z's team after. But this guy, what did Makar have? 28 goals last year or 25 goals? He's just a beast.
All right, Jules, who did you pick?
I went Kaprizov with my second pick. Kind of like a name that maybe flies under the radar because he plays in Minnesota, but I don't know. He had some injury issues last year, didn't quite hit 50 goals as a result of it. I think he bounces back in a big way this year, healthy. Maybe provides some goals for the Taylor Swift network.
It's a very safe. I think Kaprizov was a very safe.
As long as he's healthy.
Solid pick. Yeah. Luca, you might have been blocked from getting Cale Makar, but who did you get instead?
Well, I needed an Av, and so...
Needed
an Av.
Yeah,
like, I'm
not
cheer. Leaving the draft without an Av.
We can all agree you do want to cheer for your team to sound right.
Absolutely. And Jesse took advantage of that, knowing full well that I would have taken those guys. It helps to know the people you're drafting with. Mm-hmm. So I settled for Alexander the Great in net, Alexander Georgiev. I think he's going to have an even better season than his career year last year. Avs are going to win a ton of games. He's going to get some shutouts along the way. He is the one guy there in net. Francouz is hurt right now, so they don't even have a backup. He's going to play 1,000,000 games for them.
So you took him before Shesterkin, which is like, I guess you don't think the Rangers are going to get the wins that they need. I get it. But and then you ended up with Kucherov anyways, which is kind of crazy that he's not in the second round. Which brings me to my next question. Who do you think should have been drafted in those first 2 rounds that wasn't in our draft?
Definitely Kucherov.
Kucherov. Yeah. I was shocked that Luca got him in the 3rd round. I thought that was insane, and I'm gonna have to have a good word with the rest of the league on that one because that was just unacceptable. It was despicable.
Okay, so now here are the full results of the draft. Here's how everyone's team in this room, at least, is stacking up. Who do you guys think has the best squad? If you're just being honest, just quick answer. Don't even go full dissect.
Puck.
I think I actually have a really good team.
Yeah. Maybe I should.
But I also think Pac has a really good team.
I think Pac was like, there's always someone in your draft. You're like, damn it. Like when they grab someone, you're like, I knew he was going to get him before me.
Okay, not gonna lie. Obviously, love ESPN, but some of the their projections here, and hey, it's okay. They have
a ton of them.
Yeah, they have their own projections. I just don't agree with a lot of their projections. Like I think
Chris Kreider, 21 goals,
getting 22 goals is insane.
Horse.
He's a complete horse. And he scored 36 last year, like 52 or whatever the year before. I just don't understand.
He also just does it in a repeatable way, too. It's just like the kind of goals he scores.
He had a little bit of a down year, though, last year, didn't he?
His down year is still
36 goals.
Still 36 goals.
And also, they're projecting Marchand to have 46 points this year.
Wow.
It's pretty low.
That's insanely low. And he's going to be playing on a line with Pastrnak. Like, I just don't get it.
We're going to go over some superlatives, though. So let's start you guys off here with the player that you love and have to get in every single draft. Who's that for you, Jesse?
I feel like every time I do a hockey draft, I end up drafting Sidney Crosby because he's so consistent. And why wouldn't I? He never lets me down.
In the last couple of years, he goes way lower than you think he should, too, right? Like, although you took him early.
I took him in the 3rd round here. And, like, he had 93 points last year. He's not slowing down, still playing with high-end talent in Pittsburgh. No reason to not take that guy every year, and he's also just a complete moose. And I have another moose on my team. The Moose. I'm going to name my team the Mooses.
Jules, the player that you avoided every time that it came around to your turn.
Matt Barzal.
Why is that?
I don't know. I felt like we were all avoiding Matt Barzal kind of like the plague. He's rated so high. He's only had one 20-goal season in his career, like you pointed out.
Just one?
Yeah, his rookie year. One 20-goal season.
I would not have thought that.
He's a good player. He just plays on the Islanders, and there's just not much going on there offensively.
They're boring.
He's rated really high, but I just can't have that man on my squad.
Okay.
It's funny
and he cut his hair. Why would he do that? If he had nice hair still, I would have considered it.
It's funny you mentioned him because I feel like him and Bo Horvat were the guys that I just
so
kept seeing drop down, and I was like, I'm not touching them.
Yeah.
Get them out of here.
Speaking again, the people that you're not touching, Luca, you're up next with a player that's going too high in most people's draft.
May have just been an ESPN thing, but Jacob Chychrun was right up there with some of the best point-producing defensemen. And no offense to Jacob Chychrun, I think he's a great player. I think this is one of the cases where like the player is better than the fantasy version of the player. He's never had a 42-point season before in the NHL. He's not going to play power play minutes in Ottawa, and I think it was Charlie that picked him ahead of like Adam Fox, Miro Heiskanen,
McAvoy,
Victor Hedman, Sergachev,
Oh my gosh,
Morrissey.
jail Charlie.
Yeah, like that's just objectively not a good pick. So again, not sure if this is a ratings thing where people are just high on the Sens this year, which makes sense. I think there's reason to be excited about them, but Chychrun's just not ahead of those guys anyway.
Well, clearly Charlie thought that he was getting slept on, but now I'm going to go to you. Who do you think is actually being slept on?
All right, I'm going to say a couple players from my own team.
Oh my
because
God.
I know my team better than anyone else.
Not a lot of goals in Jesse's team. Careful what you're hearing.
First of all, Artemi Panarin slipped to the 7th round.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
And ESPN.
Another terrible haircut, by the way.
Yeah. That's
why he slipped. I
There
think
was
we're
no
noticing
more
a theme
head to
here.
cut, and if I didn't know any better, I'd think he was Mark Messier. Okay, but really, like, the reason why Panarin went so late is because his name was so low on the board. And it's just another thing. It's like ESPN, their projections for him, I think he's projected to get like between 60 and 70 points. He had 92 points last year. He's one of the best point producers in the league.
You can say whatever you want about him, like outside of fantasy, like whether or not you can win with a guy like that, but like fantasy, like that guy's getting his points.
And he plays with such good players in New York too. It made no sense to me that I got him in the 7th round. And also, I'll say it again, Brad Marchand, ridiculous. Projected to have 46 points this year. Who's deciding this? Like, that's a terrible projection. If Brad Marchand plays at least 60 games and doesn't get over 50 points this year, I will actually like.
What are you gonna eat?
Why is he looking around? I don't like how much he's looking around.
Should I pierce my ears with this Titan skate?
You would not be able to do
I don't even
that.
think that's physically possible. I don't think Jesse realizes how people get their ears pierced. Never been to Claire's.
I will eat.
Never been to
I will
Claire's.
eat a cold can of beans in my underwear for a video. How does that sound?
This guy's eating beans.
Why do you have
What
to
is
be
the difference
shirtless?
between warm
Eat
or
beans
cold?
down.
That's one of those ones where we all lose. So I'm gonna move
Fine.
on.
I will eat beans as a like bowl of cereal.
No one needs to be around you after that. We work with you.
No one wants to be
It's
around me.
confined spaces.
Yeah.
No one wants
sometimes.
to be around me after that because it's gonna stink. Bring some gas.
That's
man.
what I mean.
That's exactly what we're saying.
Quite literally. Anyway.
And yes, we were on the same page with that one for sure.
All right. As Jesse was saying, Panarin went in round 7. And what we're talking about is, and this is for the full group here, I think. This is the fun one.
Okay.
The player that could win you the league after round 6. Panarin off the board. We already discussed him. Who else? Let's just go look at our specific
Yeah.
draft where that happened.
I got one guy.
Go ahead.
I'm going with Taylor Hall in Chicago. You draft Connor Bedard,
like-
you have to pay the 2nd or 3rd round price for Bedard. Hall's playing on the same line. They brought him in for this reason, to play with Connor Bedard, former 1st overall pick. He's got high-end talent. They're hooking up in training camp already with these saucer passes
Yeah.
and breakaways. Everyone's excited.
Hall did not score on that breakaway, by
He
the way.
didn't,
It was a
but-
great pass, but brutal fin.
It was a brutal finish. But if there's a place where Taylor Hall will produce a bunch of points, he didn't have to be that guy in Boston because that team is just so loaded, and he still did really well. But you're playing with Connor Bedard now in Chicago, 13th
Yep.
round?
Yep.
You kidding me?
Yeah,
Go
that's
get
pretty
Taylor
good.
Hall for that price instead of Bedard in the 2nd round.
You know who was one where I think all of us kind of clicked like, oh man, because like, and especially for me because I hadn't taken a defender yet, but like especially because there's a premium on power play points. It was Evan Bouchard was still available.
I
Yeah.
thought that he'd be a
after
really
round
This
good.
was after he was in round 7,
And
I was
he's
like,
running that power play. Like
yeah.
he's always gonna pick up points there.
Even Quinn Hughes in the 6th round was a good pick by Pac.
Yeah,
I don't think he's winning you a draft though.
nah, probably not
That guy
winning.
gets a
you
lot of
draft.
points. That guy gets a lot of points, a lot of assists.
Yeah.
If I'm risky and I took Bo Horvat before a lot of these guys I just said, like he took him before Panarin.
Man, how about
Not doing it.
Even like Evgeny Malkin has still got game. That was a point
Totally.
per game player last year.
Yeah.
There's just so many good players in the league. I love Bowen Byram too, by the Pierre Engvall fan club. Problem is, as Luca will attest to, he's Svechnikov was a sneaky pick actually.
Yeah.
But Byram hasn't really been able to stay healthy. But wow, Svechnikov in round 9 was a good pick too.
Injury's tough there.
All right, well, that's all the people that we wish we would have drafted, which was the next one. So I'm going to move to our last one. It's player that you panicked on the most. When you hit draft, maybe you were a little bit unsure when it happened, but you did it anyways.
The player I panicked with was probably Gabe Velarde because I wanted to show the guy some love and like give some love to the Jets. But I'm not gonna lie, I already have a waiver claim in for someone else, and he is the casualty. So sorry, Gabe. Go Jets.
Clearly a panic edition there.
Oh yeah.
I this wasn't even a panic edition. This was I was working while we were doing the draft, and I didn't realize that it was my turn. And by the time I noticed that it was, I'd auto drafted Raquel. I don't want to send any hate to Ricard Raquel, but I don't think I wanted him in the 8th round, and
That's
I
pretty
did
high.
panic
Fair.
when I realized that I had drafted him there.
Fair.
Sorry, Ricard. I'm sure you're great.
I just drafted forwards and the one goalie, and so my first defenseman, it was like I'm looking at the board and you're just scrolling and you see like Justin Falk and Rasmus Anderson, and like I ended up with Rasmus Anderson, and I'm like, he's a solid player.
And he's on the first power play.
He is with the
so-
Flames, which is nice, but
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is my number 1 defenseman. This
tough.
is not my
ideal.
look that I wanted, but it's,
Now
it's
imagine
a
being the
pick.
Flames.
I just want to say, Z's chirped my team for goals this year. His defensemen, I think they they got
Maybe 10.
what? They're projected to get 28 goals combined this year.
Actually, I thought that was generous. The
Kale-
way I reached for all mine.
Cale Makar alone is projected to get 25 goals this year.
I will
so.
say, though, I mean, there are more forwards, and I still do have more than 60 goals projected on you for the whole year, so it's cool.
We'll see.
We will see. All right, we're coming in real hot for this one because, listen, everyone loves their own team, but it's even more fun to make fun of whoever just had a brutal draft, and it's usually the auto drafter. And I think in this case, we have a almost unanimous pick for who's coming in last place to usurp Julia from last year's performance. Woo! Who do you guys think had the worst team?
I'm gonna catch some heat here, but it's definitely Alex.
It's his girlfriend. He's
Poor
not
Alex.
won't be going home.
She was busy. She was auto
She was
drafting.
working. Okay, everyone's
You know
got
what?
that person
No.
that auto drafts.
No.
Everyone has that person. She got the first 2 picks off, right? Tim Stutzla, Mitch Marner. She got her leaf. Very happy about that. And then from there, it was just team auto draft. And so sometimes you come back and look at that and you are not going to be happy with the results. And I think she's going to look at that and not be happy with the results. But who knows? Sometimes team auto draft ends up winning the whole damn thing.
One team that's concerning me, and I'm just going to read the roster here. You guys think Dmitry Orlov, Logan Cooley, Valimaki, Velarde. Yeah, whose team is this?
You're reading all my bench, and like you're like, wow, that's a good bench. Wow, you have Dmitry Orlov on your bench.
I will say
and
this.
Brad Marchand and Logan Cooley.
I will say this. You said that everyone loves their team. There was one person that hated their team, and that was Pigs.
I
No,
actually
remember?
didn't like my team the whole time either. I was
Pigs
insecure
did.
the entire time I was drafting. I didn't feel confident.
No.
Really?
No, I don't know. I didn't have a plan at all. I didn't go in with a plan. I was just drafting all willy-nilly, left, right, and center. I didn't think about if I wanted goal scorers. I didn't even think about defensemen until I was like, damn, I don't have a defenseman right now. I don't know. I might vote myself.
So you're the classic panic drafter.
I'm a
Your
panic
whole thing is a
drafter.
panic draft.
So what are some strategies that you would recommend to people?
Yeah, because it's just
Clearly, I don't have one, so I'm looking for advice.
I like what Jesse did in particular with the stack. If you can get some stack.
God,
of
you
a
could get
good-
Seward there, though.
Thank you.
But you could get Seward, but you could also just end up with two Avs on your team that are great, and
the
you know
Avs
they're
are
going to
good.
score goals, and you're going to get points every time they
If
score a
anybody
power
stops
play
the
goal.
puck for the Avs,
Now
I don't
we've got a
know.
little extra incentive to watch Avs games this year.
It's perfect.
and I can
So,
like chat about Luca, be like, hey man,
step it up,
I'm into this
guys.
team.
I also noticed that like 1 million Oilers got taken, and for good reason, because they all play with McDavid and Draisaitl if you're playing on the top two lines. So that's also a strategy. Just pick good players on good teams.
Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised how many Sabres went in this draft as well. So people going high on
Oh,
them.
they're going to score a lot of goals.
Yeah. Anyways, that's how our draft went this year. Hopefully yours went even better than ours did, and you're just stacked with goals, unlike Jesse.
Guys, just heads up. There's some trade talks already happening in the league for Connor Bedard.
There's
Very nice.
what?
Wow, for Connor Bedard.
This is how the conversation has gone
What's
so
the
far
offer?
with Pac. I texted him saying,
So it's
trade me
you.
Bedard. And he goes, holy LFG, I'm a lover of my team. I said, some people have the stones. And he goes, let's make history. Bedard is a top 5 player by year's end. I'll trade you Mark Scheifele, though. And he goes,
Straight swap.
And he goes, no room for dirty players like that in my locker room. He's a big Habs fan, by the way.
Yeah, big Habs fan. But yeah, thanks for watching. And again, listen, good luck to you this year. And more importantly than anything, pay attention to your team past week 3.